Oh man, I don't even know how to transition this. Whenever Tyrese is involved, it's a it's a bit of confusion. But I will say salute to Tyrese. Obviously, a really talented brother. While his posts a lot of times don't really make a lot of sense, I thoroughly enjoy his interviews and the breaking them and breaking certain things down. And at the end of the day, we all love the meme. What more do you want from me? But he made a relatively interesting post not too long ago, and I'm really interested to know what y'all think about it. So, Share Room posted it, and they said, Tyrese explains why he sometimes wishes he was born Latino. Now, before we get into this, again, I'll say salute to him, but one thing I don't like about him, and I don't like about a lot of people, a lot of these artists, if you scroll over, is they when they post, it's always a long novel. Like, bro,
Who's reading this shit, bro?
that's not what social media is for. You don't post like you need to bring this shit back to Tumblr. Like
Yeah, man.
nobody,
Post it on a
nobody,
blog or something.
nobody asked for this. It's only us that's reading this entire thing. I'm telling you right now, we're the only ones. But I digress. All right, so Tyrese says, sometimes I wish I was born Latino. I mean, the Latino community is grounded in family, loyal, I think it's a little T, entrepreneurs, businessmen, and women literally represent the dream, the grind, the hustle, doing whatever it takes to stick together against all odds. If us is, I think I say in black culture was more grounded in these integral magical nuances of us, we would be dominant. I learned a lot from the Jewish community, sticking together, eating dinner every Friday together. Did you say together twice? I've learned a lot about the Muslim community throughout all my travels in the Middle East. They have a father structure where they honor their fathers. In the Middle East, the thinking and the mentality is that they would much rather have a son over a daughter because they know that there is nothing like the leadership of a father and a man being the head of a household. I have no idea how we lost our way. We can't get anything done and accomplished as a fragmented culture, insecure, threatened by each other, competitive towards our own race, killing ourselves every single day. Previously, the majority of us is black men, and the millions are locked up in prison. Of course, uh, we are beautiful and we are beyond powerful, influential, and successful. But imagine if we all linked up like other communities have linked, poured and built up each other instead of moving like fragmented and dysfunctional. We have what it takes to take over the world. Three exclamation points. Remarks. We are nothing trying to do it alone. Please chime in. Would love to know your thoughts on this. Well, Tyrese, we're here to give our thoughts. So this is the age-old, uh, someone getting it off their heart, getting off their chest about their gripes with the black, quote unquote, black and brown community. In this case, even comparing us to other communities, and even going so far as to where sometimes that they were born into some other communities. Yeah. Again, to recap, Tyrese is kind of expounded upon how in his view, other communities have a lot of the traits that lead to a strong community. Having a decent hierarchy, being focused on family, being focused on community building and growth, honoring father with Middle Eastern communities. And I don't think he actually got a tremendous amount of backlash. So I mean that's good. And I think when we take a step back, I think people generally agree that there are some problems, not some problems, there are problems within the black and brown community that seem to not be able to get resolved for one reason or another. But it's still interesting, none the least, why he would say it like this. And I guess I know we had to start talking about this in some shape or form, but I guess revisiting it, what do y'all think of a comment like this? Do you think it's strange for somebody to want to be a part of another ethnicity, nationality, race, however you want to call it, because of the traits that these other, again, nationality, ethnicities, races seem to exhibit? Or do you think it's 100% feasible and possible to find this in your own community. And he's kind of bugging, like always. No, I'm just joking. What do you think, Ghost?
Uh, I think a lot of comments and sentiments like this heavily depend on who's delivering it and by extension the intent. I don't know Tyrese. I don't know anything about him. I don't know his
Come on,
what
you've
he
seen
said
some of
on.
those Transform or Fast and Furious
Oh,
movies. Don't
I
get to capping.
I see his movies. I don't know what he's about as a person, but assuming, giving him benefit of the doubt, assuming that he's coming from a place of trying to better,
And he's an R&B artist. Sorry.
yeah, if he's trying to, if it's come from a place of trying to better the black community in general, I don't have an issue with. I think the general overall sentiment of what he said is accurate to an extent. I will say, leading off with, I wish I was born on that team. Like you already started off really bad because he kind of went into different cultures and certain aspects of them that he admires, which is definitely fine. I think that's a good way to go about it. But saying that you wish you were born as a that I think he could have left that out because it implies that it just has a very negative connotation and implication as to like you, not even him specifically, but it's like, why would you want to be black when you have all these other communities? Which like, I'm not saying that's his intent, and that's just kind of how I read it. But skipping past that part, like what he's saying again is not wrong. Like there's definitely a lot of aspects of black culture, black community that are very flawed, and that we could certainly try to improve. And the aspects that he highlighted with other cultures, I think again, it's if you have a good model to follow, then that's better than starting from scratch. So again, assuming he's coming from a positive place, I think there's really nothing wrong with a statement like this. And if
Nothing wrong, huh?
hopefully it gets to the right, I don't want to say to the right people, but hopefully it has some effect and some positive outcome, I guess. It's just I'm really a lot of these statements I'm really skeptical about because it I don't want to say primarily comes from it, but it seems like all the ones that get traction are the ones that come from grade A coons and Uncle Toms and sellouts that are purposely pandering to other cultures and primarily white culture in saying, "Oh, look at how bad the black community is," and it just kind of purposely shitting on it to say, "Yeah, we can be better," but it's not coming from a place of like truly trying to help. It's coming from a place of you want brownie points with other white people that are looking at it. It's like, "Oh, look at this. He's one of the good ones," and that we don't have to get too deep into that aspect of it, but that's why statements like this can be problematic. But again, if it's coming from a good place, a positive place where he actually wants to see the change done, then I don't have a problem with it.
And I think it is, in a lot of cases, beneficial to give people charity, unless you know that they aren't deserving it, to think they are coming from a good place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, Although, so you said that you agree with some of the sentiments here, and you acknowledge that the community has some flaws. So, do you agree with the quote unquote flaws that they mentioned? Would you say that black and brown people are, we can't get anything done? There's no accomplished. There's no compliments. Or they were fragmented. You say we're insecure. Would you say we're threatened by each other? Would you say we're competitive? Would you say or overly competitive to our own race? And you agree that we're
He
killing each
he
other?
fucking went in, bro. Like
Would you say we're
still,
killing each other every day?
I mean, there's yeah, I mean everything. There's elements of truth to everything he said.
But I'm saying,
It's
do you think it's true?
yeah, he kind of overstated some things, but yeah, I do think everything he said has an element of truth to it, and I do agree to some extent. I don't want to magnify it and make it seem like that's
So let me
every
ask.
single. So, what were you saying?
So let me ask you: if you think these, do you think these things are specifically true for black and brown people?
You mean like exclusively and no other
Yes,
races?
yes, sorry, yeah, exclusively true for
Yeah,
the
that's
outsiders.
part of the reason why I think it's a little magnified because it's definitely not exclusive. Um,
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
I don't really want to compare it because that's when we get into the very sketchy territory. I don't want to look at it like that. I'll just say that it is true for black communities, and I'm not trying to say relative to other it's more or less. That's
yeah.
not what
I'm not comparing. I'm just simply asking. Do
yeah,
you think
yeah.
that's true in the Black and Brown community, and do you think it's only true?
Definitely not only true.
Okay.
I mean, it's funny. We were watching the Vince Staples show yesterday. That whole cookout episode, it was like the family reunions, like and that brother at the end. I was walking away. It's like that sentiment is. I don't want to say it's being echoed here because it's not on that level what he said, which
I
was
forgot
why
what
do
he
we have to
says.
be
Why
black?
do we have to be black?
Yeah, I'm not going
Oh
that
my
far, but
goodness.
I will say, I mean, there's certain instances and cases where you'll see a very it was true to life in some aspects, like that whole situation that went down the fictional TV show. So stuff
Fair
like
enough.
that, it's like yeah, there's definitely problems that need to be fixed, serious problems, but I don't think comparing is the right way to go about it and say, "Oh, look at X community," and I don't think that's what he was doing because he kind of went into just things to emulate, more so saying, "Look what they're doing and what we're," he kind of did, but
Yeah,
it's
I think some people interpret it as exactly what he did.
yeah, it's a really thin line to tread. But again, if you're coming from a positive place, the wording might not have been like absolute best, but it's about the intent and what he meant by it. So
Fair enough. Obviously, I'm sure if somebody did an interview with Outram to get him to expound, maybe we could have found that. Um, Ace. Actually, before you answer, I think I've been noticing. This is sorry, taking a break. I think depending on when you're standing in relation to your mic, I don't know if you're more comfortable where you are. I think that creates an echo as well. I think when you're closer to it, but yeah, I can you visibly look closer to it. So I don't know. I know some people here are sensitive about if you're telling them where they are in relation to their mic, but I think depending on your location, it creates an echo
When I'm closer or when I'm further?
when you're farther.
Oh, okay, okay.
But obviously, do what you need to have an optimal setup and scene. So what do you think about Tyrese's comments? Do you maybe agree with the commentary that there are some aspects of other communities that would make a person want to be a part of them and not part of the Black and Brown community, or do you think he's out of touch with the comments that he's making?
I pretty much agree with him, like 100%. And this is
Uh
probably
oh.
because I've thought this.
What do you mean you agree with him?
I've thought the same things, and I don't really see an issue with highlighting them. Like, if you point to cultures where
You think the other community cultures are better than Black and Brown community?
that's not what he said,
you just
What do you
better
mean?
than what he said.
What do you mean? He's saying these other cultures have these great qualities, and then once you start talking about he did list good qualities, but once you start talking about the Black and Brown culture, he listed a bunch of bad qualities. What do you mean? Doesn't that make one better than the
Of
other?
course, we
this
are
guy.
beyond powerful, influential, and successful. We have areas that we can improve, just like these other cultures where we're
But if he's
not part
mentioning
of
the
them.
good and bad qualities about the Black and Brown community, why didn't he do that for other communities?
Because maybe he's not as familiar with the bad qualities of the other communities because he's not part of them.
But you're familiar with the good ones, so you're just going based off a surface level of interpretation of what you viewed,
Yes,
and you think that's a health. And you think if you have that, you should go on to speak on it like that.
I think it's fine because if you're gonna let me talk,
I'm just
all he's
I'm just asking you about what you're saying.
what he's doing, like I mean, as is obvious, is he's highlighting things that he finds to be deficient within our community that are, I think, easily identifiable in these other communities. I've seen it, especially like the Latino, the comments about the Latino community. I think are in particular for me something that I resonate with as far as seeing and um, thinking like, damn, yeah, the Latinos that I'm familiar with, that grew up with, they do have this,
Keyword that
familial,
you're familiar with.
yeah, have this familial bond. Try to stick together, um, and I do like for me personally, my in my own family, I don't necessarily see that as much. So I don't think there's an issue with like taking example from another um another family, another group, another whatever, and um like I don't know, seeing something that you could potentially emulate. Like if you get inspiration from it to do good, I don't see where there's a problem with that.
Well, we're not specifically only basing off our family though. Talking about the entire community.
Well, yeah. I guess that's a
Like
good
we've
point.
never seen like or heard about like a reunion or just a black quote black and brown family like having a super big having a super big bond.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I guess I can only speak um to my like circle, my um like I don't know, like my family circle basically, the entirety of my family circle, and
Mm,
maybe friends and people that we interact with. I'm not necessarily I would never necessarily speak on the entirety of the culture because we are not a monolith. And even within
so if we acknowledge that we're not a monolith, are we saying that about other communities?
yeah, that's true too.
You're saying they're not monoliths.
No, they're not.
So why would we try to go based off like them for being a representation of how we should be?
What I'm saying is that I would only apply this like the perception of the other cultures that I see to my own community that I'm within, and the people that I um, interact with. And this what the way Tyrese breaks it down with, especially like I said, the Latinos, I can relate to within my community.
I don't know about this because they're not speak. I didn't. Nothing about this seems like speaking on a my household
It's
basis.
not my household. It's my community. I mean, I'm sure Tyrese has a much more extended community than I can. So maybe he feels more comfortable with speaking to the community as, or the
But when they say if us is in the black culture is more grounded, that doesn't say if us in my circle. That seems to say if us all like the majority of black and brown people. Like I don't think people interpret this as he's talking about his group. He's talking about black culture as a whole, or as as a majority.
yes, that's fine. And if he's comfortable with speaking to the community, I mean the black culture, I should say, as a whole, based on his experiences and interactions in his life and his level of influence, I don't think there's a problem with that. But I can relate to it in my much smaller circle, and I don't have an issue with applying the same mentality to my circle or to my community, however you want to put it.
Okay, I'll give you that. I still raise an eyebrow at the notion that if you're not like, if I really take what you're saying to be true, wouldn't it make more sense to say, hey, this other specific group or family, they hold the values that you would probably want to see in your specific, if you're really going to look at it on this small scale, which I'm not even really asking y'all about, but if you want to take it there, like again, you're saying you can relate to him, but he's relating on a macro level, and I don't know if that macro level is applicable on the micro level.
I mean, like I said, he has, to me, he definitely has more of macro like, I don't know, experience or whatever, experience level.
Right?
Again, he's had more level of influence over, like, literally influence over the culture,
Yeah.
being in the entertainment industry,
Mm-hmm.
movies, music. Like, he's had that level of influence. He's had, clearly he's had the ability to travel, to experience different cultures.
Just to be
And
clear, I'm not questioning any of that.
yes, while his experiences are not going to literally be every black person, every Muslim person, every Latino person, the general the general impression that he's come out with is what he's describing here. So if he feels comfortable speaking on the level of the culture, comparing to his experience with different cultures, I don't find a problem with it.
Well, let's be clear. Maybe I guess I didn't interpret the way what I'm asking. I said even like I'm his point. We're kind of pushing that aside. You're saying you can agree with them on your level, but I'm saying I'm questioning that because if you can't even take what's applicable on the macro level, not being monolithic to what you're talking to your community, then how could you say, okay, so this community over here, it makes sense that we want to take some of the good traits from them? Wouldn't you say, hey, this specific family or this specific group, they have good characters, qualities?
Um, I mean, sure, I guess you could. I guess you could.
I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's a guess. It's like the you if you are bringing it, which again I didn't ask, but since you brought it there, if you are really saying on a micro level, I can agree with this, then it becomes like then that's where the question: do you really feel like this group really holds that as a total holds this quality?
Yeah, I mean, like, if, like you just said, I it would make more sense to list the specific families, or people that I've interacted with from these other cultures, and say this family, this person, whatever, has these qualities that I want to emulate. But if it's just in my mind, the majority of families, or maybe like all
Well,
that I've
if it's in
interacted
a
with
white
from that
person's mind that
culture,
all black people are violent and evil, then is that make it valid for them to go saying?
no.
So why would it, in your mind, just because you believe, in your experience that the other group has all these good traits, why would you go and say it? Damn, that silence speaks louder than the words.
I don't know. Maybe you got me.
Like, who thought about a gay? I'm just like trying to get to the root of this thing because the initial statement don't sound like it. It made a lot of sense. I think fundamentally because honestly, I don't want to necessarily get on here and start complaining or start trash talking other communities. We over here at the Be Feel podcast definitely have a vibe of we are inclusive. We love people from all backgrounds, all that jazz. But being very realistic, I can if I was speaking on my specific experiences, I grew up around a lot of Hispanic folks, and I could, if I literally was going based on my own purview, a lot of this characteristics that didn't hold true. I've seen a lot of not unloyal Hispanic folks. I've seen a lot of Hispanic folks that never pursued entrepreneurship, never pursued trying to be businessmen. A lot of women that weren't the representation of a dream woman. Um, I don't know too much about the quote unquote Jewish community. I've seen a lot of Muslim brothers that end up not a lot, but I've seen Muslim Muslim and Middle Eastern brothers that left their families so that the household didn't have a strong leader to look up to, or a not a strong leader. They didn't have a strong fatherly leadership to look up to. Like I can understand, in life we take things based on our perception and start to build stereotypes and things like that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling out. I am actually a big fan of self policing. I think if a person wants to call out the flaws that are in the black and brown community, obviously, like Ghost said, as long as it's coming from the right intention, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think this is kind of like a very flawed view to say, hey, these groups over here, they got the sauce. We need to be following them because, like, one, I'm willing to bet they're really. I don't want to load my assumptions on, but they're really going based off their like their level of what they're seeing. Because like there are a lot of there he goes ghost again. There are a lot of depending on it's gonna depend on the environment. If you go to like a lot of Hispanic countries, you think the whole country is gonna be filled with family traditions, loyalty, entrepreneurs? No, there's gonna be some people that have. You're gonna find everything that you mentioned about the black and brown community. You're gonna find people that don't get anything done, people that aren't accomplished, people, a fragmented culture, insecure. You think in Mexico, you think there's a bunch of like entrepreneurs and like businessmen. You think that's why a lot of people want to go over to the States because there's an abundance of like healthy traditions and family values in a lot of these places. The same thing again. I already gave this disclaimer. We all is out of love. You think in all of the Middle East, all these values are presented, and that's why there's a lot of issues within the Middle East. Like we're coming from a very realistic and just want to make sure we're not just making things up view. A lot of these issues are represented in other cultures. I think this statement is good if you take out I want to. Sometimes I wish I was born in another culture, and assigning some of these really productive elements to other cultures. I think just say, hey, this is what I observe in the black and brown community. This is what I would like there to be. I think once you start comparing, that's where you get into a space of what do you like? You think you can't find businessmen, entrepreneurs, family oriented, loyal, in women in the black and brown community? Are you crazy? Like, wait, what? So I guess that's my piece on the matter. But y'all can correct me if I'm tweaking on anything.
I mean, I pretty much
Good.
agree. Yeah, I mean, I think the goal should be improvement, not comparison, is what it boils down to for me.
Facts. Um, but also because we're all about balances on here, and I wonder if in the original post, because whenever people make these long ass posts, I know for a fact that they edit it, even though there's still some typos and grammar mistakes in here. I know for a fact they go back and edit it. I always wonder in the original iteration if they mention the benefits of the white quote unquote white community, and maybe
I noticed that you didn't specify anything there.
maybe pull that back once they realize that would come off away. But I was gonna say, in saying everything I just said, I'm not saying I'm innocent of it. I think I've even said to y'all sometimes, like specifically with some of this new age like men versus women debates and like this weird division in our culture, especially when it comes to like dating and mate selection, where it seems like there's a lot of N words ain't shit and B words ain't shit either. You don't really find that in white communities. Like a lot of white people, they find a partner early on, or they find them in college, or they find them early on in their workspace. They get married, and then they really just go about their business. It seems like in our culture, this is again, I'm doing what Tyrese says, so you can come for me as well. But it seems like in our community, we're like, I don't want to drag on podcasts, but we're like setting up all these like platforms and trying to explain why I can't find like a good woman or a good man. And it's like if no one can find a good man or a good woman, I think like at a certain point we just got to really analyze what we're looking for and what we can do to actually obtain that. And so yeah, I'm not even against this. There's some ways in which I do as well. I just if someone called me out for it, I mean, I couldn't argue. I can argue that. Um, but I digress. Just to help the conversation. That's what we're about on this podcast. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.